of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Has council had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from September 7th? If so, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 7th as presented.
A second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Changes to this evening's agenda. There is a revised agenda. We will be motion to remove the BCC indoor cycling bike replacement item. Does somebody want to make that a motion?
I'll make a motion to remove that from the agenda tonight.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any other changes to this evening's agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the set agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Motion from Rick, second from Becky. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Guests in open forum. All right, seeing no one for guests in open forum, we'll move into committee reports. How about the EDA?
EDA, we met September 13th, Monday. Mainly an update on some of the things that we've already been aware of on council. Probably the biggest item of note was we did have some kind of discussion about the, where the housing market is at currently, and without going into too much detail, we have seen, so to give you a comparison, so back in the mid to late 2000s, kind of at the peak of the 2006, 2007, kind of right in there, the price to, I don't remember what the exact name of the ratio was, but the basically the amount where it was listed at versus what a house actually sold at that point was in the upper 90%, about 96%, something like that. And that was the highest previously that folks had seen, and we are in another month of over 100%. So it did come down a percent. It was at like 104. I think it came down to 103. But so if it seems like homes are selling for more than what they are listing, that is true. You're not just imagining that. That is, and that's both in Sherman County and statewide as well. So that was interesting. Although the numbers do appear to be tapering down a little bit, as the market does tend to slow down in the fall anyway, and maybe some other factors too. But still a hot market. So that was. Otherwise, EDA just had some updates on like the TJ Potter property, solar stuff that we're already aware of, but they were not. So that's about it.
All right, Personnel Committee met last week. We discussed a hiring and recruitment and reviewed a couple of the handbooks. There's also a couple of things that are in this evening's agenda, Chapter 11, COVID-19 related change, and then travel and meal allowances for Chapter 17 of the personnel policy. So there's a couple things there. And the compensation study, we are still waiting. They're in a good spot. They're almost completed, but if you'd like to sit through the 9-hour presentation, you certainly may. So I'm sure the staff will invite you if you wish to. So I've asked for the executive review though, so. How about Parks and Rec?
Park and Rec actually canceled last night.
All right, how about Fire Board?
Fire Board, we met last night. We talked about how they're in the hiring process. They like to hire up to 3 new volunteers, well, firemen, firewomen. Not as much as a show up as last time. Yeah, lower.
Not as much interest as it has in the past.
In the past, so they're looking to hire up to 3. There was a lower amount of calls this month compared to last month, so that is good. Also just kind of briefly talked about how they are going to be having an open house on the 9th. So bring the families from 10 to 2. I'm sure you guys will hear about it when it gets closer, but just kind of wanted to give a heads up on that. So that's about it.
October 9th.
Are the fire positions open currently? Are they still accepting applications? Or is that closed?
They did testing, but
Right, they've already gone through the testing.
I think they were closed, but you can always apply if you wish to do. They had 3 applicants, and I believe they were taking all 3.
Right. 2 they know they had tested. They didn't know
Yep.
for 1 for sure. But
Yeah. So, any other committee reports? All right, with none, we will move into administrator and staff reports. So a call for a public hearing with Ms. Bleasy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff is looking at making changes to the city's fee schedule, so I would request council to call for a public hearing at the next meeting at approximately 5 p.m. to consider those changes. If you have any questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, a motion would be appreciated.
Make a motion to call for a public hearing on October 5th, approximately 5 p.m. to consider changes to Chapter 2, Section 19, addressing the city's fee schedule.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion? With none, those in favor can state aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Julie. Property purchase with R.D. Offutt Company. Ms. Flipson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. One of the properties that we've discussed in one of the past closed sessions was this property that's identified under ownership by R.D. Offutt Company. It is currently located adjacent to some of our city-owned shovel-ready parcels. We're looking to acquire a small portion of one of these parcels owned by RDO, so we can kind of combine it with some of our current property to make one property bigger for a bigger business project. So tonight before you is a resolution that would authorize that purchase agreement to be executed by the mayor and city administrator, as long as it's subject to the city attorney approval and edits. There are likely going to be some minor tweaks in working with the company to make sure it's updated. So as long as the city attorney signs off, it authorizes that to move forward. So if there's any questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, a motion and second approving resolution 2176 is appreciated.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2176, authorizing the property purchase with R.D. Offutt.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ski Trail Grooming Contract with Sherman County. Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In front of you tonight, we have a contract proposal from Sherman County. For several years, the city and county have been working together on ski trails for both the parks and the golf course. And just last year, the city used to provide the services and the contract with the county. They would pay us for that. Last year, we did a role reversal with the county taking the lead on that. They've got different equipment. They're actually applying for a state grant for a new grooming, actual ski groomer as well. And we just thought we'd put ourselves in a better position to support them because of their park structure. I haven't heard yet if they've got that grant, but the results last year were very favorable. Service delivery was very good, and our overall spend on the project was just over $1,100 for the year. So in light of that, we reached out to the county again to see if they would like to renew that contract. They do, and we proposed a 3-year contract. That's what the city used to offer to the county. And after the 1-year trial, we thought it would be best if we just did a 3-year agreement. We can opt out of it for performance if we want to, or for any reason with 30-day notice. Both parties can. But after reviewing this and looking at what happened, staff from the golf course the maintenance staff used to do this work, but we have 2 full-timers that we try to get them to use their vacation time in the off-season. So it's pretty hard for us to do some off-season work at the course and do services like this. So it really worked out well for both entities to do it this way, and that would be our recommendation to look to enter into this agreement for the services. The agreement does call out for $85 an hour up to a maximum annual rate of $2,500. If it goes over that, they would have to seek written approval from us before we would authorize a spend greater than that. Like I said, in 2021, this actual spend was $1,147.50. So very reasonable from our perspective, and that does come out of our parks operating budget.
So let's say we do get Snowmageddon and we hit 2,500, does that require a full council, action then?
We would bring it, staff would bring it back to council.
So that could be, if it's timed out right, that could be almost 2 weeks. I mean, let's say we go over the threshold Wednesday and, right, the Wednesday right after council, I mean, that could be 2 weeks, so you could,
It could, so if you want us to authorize that and get it to the closest council, meeting to that, we could overspend on that since it is coming out of our operating budget too. We could have a little flexibility there, or we could reach out if it's getting close. Last year, Gina Hugo, their Parks Director, is one, she works operationally with Jason Scharfenkamp as far as the performance. Her and I just stay current on any feedback, any issues, any cost, so I can just stay posted with her and keep it close if we're getting to that threshold. Because what the county likes to do is just bill us once at the end of the season and just be done with it. But I can, that's probably the better way to do it.
Yeah, that would be my proposal.
Okay.
because I wouldn't wanna, I'd hate to see us get to early March and it's like, okay, we can get, because that's where we're gonna run out, it's gonna be at the end of the year, and if you have to wait 2 weeks, well, then snow's gone, or.
So I'll put it on my calendar just to have a monthly update with Gina and make sure that we're on the same page. If you guys are comfortable with that, if we get close, we'll bring it there and we'll discuss what that dollar could look like, so we could get an extension if need be.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2177, authorizing staff to enter into a ski trail grooming contract with Sherman County.
I'll second.
Motion from Rick, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank
Thank you.
you. All right, consent agenda with Mr. Przinski.
Real quick, did item number 6 get pulled from the consent agenda?
We'd have to do it right now.
Yeah, we would do it now.
Yeah, I would like to pull item number 6 from the consent agenda for separate consideration.
Okay, motion from Rick to move, what, sorry.
It doesn't do it as motion, you just,
Okay, so number 6 is a separate item? Okay.
That being the case, thank you, Madam Mayor. City Council member consent agenda for September 21st, 2021 is revised. Item number 1 includes the revision and is the hiring and termination report form from the Becker Community Center, our Finance Department, and Pebble Creek Golf Course. Item number 2 is City Council approval on the Pebble Creek Grill Employee Supplemental Handbook. It's been jumped through personnel and legal. Item number 3, updates to our personnel policy, has also been jumped through personnel. Did that one go through legal as well? No need for it. Item number 4 has been through legal. That's a settlement agreement that dates back multiple years. It's with Nelson Auto Center. It's for overcharging of 3 public or police vehicles. We do recommend that being approved. Item number 5, it's an analyst job description, creation and evaluation's been jumped through our personnel committee and they've signed off on it. Item number 6 has been taken off the consent agenda for some additional conversation. Item 7, partial pay request number 2. That's the trout companies and that's for our 2020 well field project. This partial pay in the amount of $109,183.50, leaving a construction contract amount of $51,433.75. So if you have questions, I would be happy to answer them. Otherwise, a motion to adopt the consent agenda would be appreciated.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Przinski, or Councilmember Hendrickson, COVID-19 leave program? You wanted to have that?
I would like to make a motion to table that item, so we can have further discussion at the exec session.
Could we have discussion now?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I will withdraw my motion. Good.
You withdraw your motion?
I withdraw my motion to table. So that
Okay.
means it's just the item on the.
Okay, so you're okay to discuss now? Okay. Did you want to start our discussion? Or would you like Mr. Brzezinski to
Or if
a
you want me to
recap?
lead
Maybe a
in for-
recap first, how about that?
Sure, actually, Julie, I think I'm gonna have you do the recap real quick. And before you do that, so in the context of COVID-19 and pandemics and how best to manage employees in those conditions, we have, I don't know, we've had multiple conversations with city council. Basically followed federal, state guidelines, CDC, whatever happens to be the case now. So out in the HR world, especially when it comes to municipalities, we've been encouraging our people to follow CDC guidelines. We understand that people aren't necessarily interested in getting immunized, but what we as leadership thought would be a good idea to do would be to encourage our people through incentives. And that's what this does. So Julie, if you would, just kind of walk us through what it does, how it works, what the mechanics are, and then we'll just open it up for some broad-based discussion. How's that sound?
Perfect.
So as Greg mentioned, this was meant to incentivize our employees to become vaccinated as the state, federal guidelines have suggested. With this one, anybody who has been vaccinated would then be allowed up to 2 weeks of additional city-paid time off should they come down with any COVID-related symptoms, or if they have to care for a family member with COVID-related symptoms. There were a couple other scenarios in there as well. Or if they've been advised by a healthcare provider to isolate or quarantine, or if they're seeking a medical diagnosis for COVID. So they would be eligible for that. Any employee who isn't vaccinated and is seeking to become vaccinated, the city would allow up to 2 days of paid time off to come from this bank if they come down with symptoms following that vaccination for each of the vaccination series required. If the employee has one vaccination at this point in time, then they'd be allowed up to 50% of that time off. So that's sort of a real quick overview of the policy being presented. Personnel did discuss it as well, and in the discussion recommended approval.
Yeah, and we did have a lot of discussion on this policy. It wasn't just as you can see from my notes, there was a little bit more. We talked about like how the federal government is imposing 100 employees. What is the city currently at?
So I think the city will fall within that 100 employees. I mean, with all of our part-time seasonal, I don't think it'll be based on FTE. I think it'll be based on the number of employees we have. So the city is easily 150 to 200 employees at this time. So, and I know it does say private sector, but it's going to be regulated through OSHA, which then will require the city to comply with federal mandates as well. At least that's the direction we're receiving from the league, is how they're interpreting it will be put into place.
Well, I understand the spirit of it. I just disagree with it as a policy, I guess, that we would be having different sets of rules for different folks. There's more than one reason why somebody may not take the vaccine. There may be medical, there may be religious. They may just not want to do it either. I mean, there's multiple reasons. Those reasons are none of my business. And so I think sometimes we tend to, think of folks maybe of just one of those three, they're going to fall into just one of those three categories. I ain't getting vaccinated, but there could be other reasons too. And
The policy does call out the medical reason as well as the religious reason. And it says they may be eligible for those, for that additional time.
I mean, looked at another way, we would be punishing folks in a sense. I mean, punishing not in the sense that you're not gonna be in any trouble, but you're not gonna be treated as good, in a sense, that, if you don't get the vaccination. There are other things that are awarded to people who are vaccinated. What about offering this to, I mean, it would take the incentive piece off the table, you know, for that spirit of it, but what about offering this to both vaccinated and unvaccinated? Because I can understand, you know, having extra, PTO, you know, you gotta care for a lot, you know, your kid comes down, you know, with COVID or something, and okay, I gotta stay home, and, you know, that could be something where, you know, that kind of protection would be nice. I'm thinking if I'm an employee that I would like either way.
And that is something that personnel did discuss. And as you said, it sort of takes away that incentivizing people to become vaccinated. So that was the reason we decided against, it sort of takes away the whole reason for this particular policy. Policy is meant to incentivize employees. I know.
And
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I hate the word incentivize, like, it just seems, it has like a bad type meaning for me, but we're like appreciative. If I have an employee who is vaccinated and they have to cover their partner's desk because they chose not to be vaccinated, which is their right, it's not fair to the person that is there every day, all day working, for the person to be paid by the same company that I work for, you know, to be out. That was, I think, a lot of our thought process as well. That you have two people doing a job, one gets to be out and be paid, the other one is working even harder now in order to cover that other desk at that same time frame, so.
In this case scenario, you'd have it, it would just be the reverse. If the person who wasn't vaccinated went out, they're not gonna be paid, or you're gonna use their personal PTO, not the special bank. The other person is gonna have to, in that same scenario.
True, if it's not for them.
I don't know, I think it's bad policy to get into, where we're gonna treat different based off of this. I think that's bad policy.
Anything else? How does council wish to proceed on this?
That's a good question.
Are you looking for a motion to approve it, or what do you?
For council to make any sort of recommendation or movement? Yes.
Well, I recommended the policy and personnel, so.
Is
That's
that
where I stand.
Is that a motion or just a comment?
That's a comment.
Okay.
So we need a motion to adopt the COVID-19 leave program
Yes.
for vaccinated
If that,
employees.
yes, if that's the direction.
I'll make a motion to approve the COVID-19 leave program for vaccinated employees.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Payment of the bills.
I move we pay the bills.
Sorry, I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, motion for Becky, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 5:25 PM. Hey, Greg, do you mind giving us 10